So we have another review for you guys. This is Philip Pence. This is one of our pros in Pro Feedback, and Philip has done some amazing work, some amazing music in his sync licensing career. In fact, he was one of my former students, and his music was so good that I decided to pluck him up and say, hey, I want you to help give feedback to some of my students because everything you send to me is licensable. Everything you send to me follows the brief. Everything you're sending to me is just really well crafted and structured. So he just has an amazing talent for producing licensable music. So that's why I have Philip on board, and he's been doing well in this business. So today we have an Americana sort of country track from one of our members, Jim Pfeiffer, and Jim is curious about the licensability mostly of this type of a track. He says he's gotten placements with this style of music, but he's not really sure in terms of, is it something he should maybe go further into? Should he sort of call it quits at this point, move into something a little bit more modern? Because he's calling this one a little bit of a retro style. So we'll take a listen here, see what we can do in terms of helping him out and getting this a much more, hopefully maybe a more licensable track. So let's go ahead and take a listen to his track here. Man, Jim, I do not doubt you that you've gotten a lot of placements with this style of music. This is just excellent, like across the board. Just really, 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 really good. I'm not going to say much more because I want Philip really to kind of dive into this one, but just know that this is a very impressive track to me. I think this sounds amazing, and you got some really, really amazing chops here, man. And across the board, it works very well for TV film. So we're going to do our best to try to maybe find some things to help you out with this one, but this is going to be a tougher one, I will be honest. So Philip, why don't you go ahead and let us know what you thought in terms of, let's start with the stuff you liked about it.
Yeah, Jim, right out of the gate, man, I think, to echo what Jesse said, I think the vibe of this whole thing is just wonderful, especially for sync licensing. I mean, it's got the head bob smile factor. So, I've heard some record people and some sync people say if you got people doing this, they can't do this. So once you got that head bob and the groove going, you're way ahead of the game. I love how it comes right out of the gate and the groove starts and the guitar work is really good. And I love that hook melody, the A part, down, 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 took it down, 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 down. That's awesome. That's something that somebody could be passing through the living room and hear that on a commercial and they'd be singing it for the rest of the day. So that's what the sync people really love, because you want that melody to stick in their head, therefore their product sticks in your head, and you'll be talking about it, That being said, there's a couple things that I think could help even make it stronger, and they're pretty minor because this is pretty solid from the get-go. Mix-wise, I think there may be just a little bit of low mid, a little bit too much in the low mid range where it's just getting a little bit muddy. And I think just one more look at the EQ could probably just clean that up. I don't think that anything needs to really be changed as far as performance or anything like that. It's just it's getting a little bit where it sounds like it's under covers or something like that, and the bass and the kick drum and maybe some low guitar work, down the low EAD strings, maybe just kind of stepping on each other. And a lot of times when I mix guitars like that, the guitars when they're soloed out by themselves don't really sound great, for lack of a better word, as far as the tone, because especially on acoustic guitars, for the low mid area, let that be the bass and let that be the keyboards, the low end of the keyboard and the kick drums. And then when you mix in, I'd roll off probably at about 300 to 500 and let the rest of the low end be covered by the bass. Then everything just kind of has its place. You got the guitars here, the bass takes this, the kick drums down here, and everything works to make one cohesive sound. And one other thing that I heard, I could have used a few more little drum fills in the A part. The drum part's great, but and there were some fills later on in the track. But when you're looping around to the A part again or going to the B part, it might be cool. Just some little bitty, you got this kind of train beat thing going, just a little flair. It doesn't have to be a giant tom fill or anything like that. Just something to kind of break up that groove a little bit, so it sounds like a guy back there playing. And also on that note, I think it was going into the B part, this big walk up, boom, 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 up to the four chord. I felt like that might be just a little bit cleaner as far as the EQ may take care of that if you adjust that low mid EQ thing we were talking about just a second ago. It may clean that up, but you really want that to be as clean as the hook melody that you have in the A parts, because that's a hook in itself too. So just to make sure that everything there is a clean don 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 don, and it's not just buh, 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 that kind of thing. Let's see here. I think towards the end, I don't think you can see my mouse here. Yeah, right around where the end of this box is here, out, there was a guitar part that came in. It's kind of like the little tic tac line. That guy sounded like it might be a little bit out of pocket, and it was just, it's just off ever so slightly. But it may be worth going back and listening to that just to lock it up. It can get real tricky when you have these shuffle swing feels. And if you're quantizing drums, guitars, anything like that, it can get really tricky to figure out what the swing pattern is. And sometimes, I've even had to go in and figure out, if it's the drum feel that I like. This is assuming that you're programming all these, and these are all MIDI instruments. Sometimes I've had to go in and really zoom in on the MIDI notes, and if it's the drum feel that I like, go in and find out exactly where those like the triplet, the back end of the triplet on the hi-hat, like the little back ends of those. Go in and find out what the number is on the MIDI grid. It'll say like 131 128 or whatever that number is right there at the end. And you might have to go draw them in and then cut paste and do something like that, but it will absolutely make your track tighten up even more than it is right now. And jumping back to this the A part, when it cycles back around to the hook again, I could have used like a tambourine maybe on 2 and 4, just something to elevate it just a little bit, a new element. You don't have to change the melody or the vibe or anything like that, because once again, I thought that was great and it's singable. But just one more little element, just right on top of the snare drums, just dun, 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 dun. So it's just another tone on top of that snare drum. And back here towards the outro, I thought the outro is a good idea, and I think you could maybe tighten that up, just like we were talking about the walk up going to the B part. It just sounded just a little bit messy at the end, and you don't want to get through such a great track like this and then have the outro licks just being kind of like they kind of 7 out of 10 when the whole track was 9 out of 10, and just the outro fills and the outro vibe like that sometimes can get overlooked because you're so happy, like, oh, we're done, this is a great track, let's ship it out the door. But a great stinger at the end and lick like that can really put the period on the sentence that you really want when these licensing folks are listening to this and just like, man, this is slamming, love this outro, and that might be the end of their commercial or something. But all in all, man, I think you got something really, really cool here, and it's no surprise to me that you've gotten some placements with this vibe here.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think, I love your notes, Philip, because they're really just showing how these are tiny things you're talking about. A little cleanup
Yeah.
here, a little drum fill here, a little, whatever, just tiny little movements in your mixing and mastering, all that kind of stuff. And these don't seem like they're big deals, but they do take your track from an average sync track that, probably could get a couple placements to an excellent one that can fly off the shelf and get multiple placements and start to have people fall in love with you as a producer and composer and then keep you on their short list. This is how you're going to get. I mean, if you look at some of my videos I released on YouTube, how I have thousands of placements, it's not because somebody accidentally found me thousands of times independently. It's because a few people found what I was doing and liked it so much that they said, just keep this guy's music on our short list, because every time he puts out a track, it works exactly for what we need for our TV show. So nobody wants to do work twice. They just want to have their homework done once, and they constantly just keep using either the same track, or they just know that composer is always going to deliver the goods that they need. So these little things that take maybe an hour or two more in your production, and that's really not that much compared to how long you're taking with your track, they do elevate you from like a C plus to an A. Like, that's really what these little notes that Philip just gave you are going to do for your track. The only little thing that for me, I would say in terms of a small thing that I think could make your track a little stronger is I wanted to replay one section here. You have this breakdown, which is really cool, right here around the 112, 115 mark. And you have this kind of wooden spoon percussion coming in. And I think if we actually just cut that out and save it for when the next section starts, it'll actually be a little more impactful. Let me go ahead and replay this real quick. Because you're kind of stopping one section and you're beginning the next one. And that percussion line is kind of just tying through the whole thing. And it's like sort of blurring the lines of where's the last section, where's the new section. So I feel like if you actually just went to this ending, just cut those out. So no percussion, bum, and then you just have that lead guitar sort of taking the lead. Really let that track is really just resting, bum, bum, and then then we go into the rhythm, basically. So little things like that just keep a cleaner sort of separation between your two sections. So let's go ahead and wrap it up with this one with the licensability, because he was concerned. This is obviously sort of a retro Americana kind of a style, but it's definitely produced in a modern way. This doesn't sound like it came from like the 60s or the 50s or something like that. It definitely feels like, to me, like a modern production. It just sounds really, really great. So my personal take is that you can get lots of placements with this style. I don't think you need to adjust to go to modern Americana. Now, I think it's not a bad idea to also do some more modern styles, but the fact that you can pull this off, it sounds this authentic, it sounds live, it's well crafted, you're basically in your own world, man. Because like very few producers can pull off this kind of a sound. Everybody can do EDM, everybody can do hip hop, everybody can do rock. I mean, I don't know, rock maybe is one of those that's a little trickier. Let's say EDM and hip hop; those ones are very doable. I would not say they're easy, but they are definitely more doable and achievable. But something like this, which is primarily trying to sound like a completely authentic, like acoustic band playing, very hard to pull off. So you are in a very amazing position for commercials and for reality shows. I think you could definitely do well with those two. Philip, I don't know if you have any more to add in terms of the licensability for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, like you said, it's extremely licensable. I can think of two or three commercials right now that keep coming on that have a similar vibe to them. That's just this acoustic. Um, you can hear the air in the room. It sounds like a band of humans playing. And it's just somebody explained to me one time that acoustic music is pretty timeless. And I know some of this is clean electric guitars, but um, you know, because
We
it's
should be,
got
we
the
should say probably live music. This is
yeah,
definitely a
yeah,
live band.
sounds like
Yeah,
a band playing, yeah. And it's relatable because it feels like other people playing it. And when you go see a live show, it's so impactful because it is the players emoting through their instruments and the audience receiving that emotion, and it just makes a connection. So when these things are used in TV, film, commercials, any of that, it is just utilizing that connection that is so effective. And I don't think it's ever going to go away, to be honest with you. So I think you're in a good spot here, Jim.
absolutely. Yeah, so you're heading in the right direction, Jim. All you got to do, little tiny tweaks, and that's what a lot of our feedback is in pro feedback, is taking what you guys are doing, most of the time doing very well, but just helping you make these tiny 10 to 20% adjustments to just sort of steer you in a little bit more of a profitable direction. And that's what's kind of crazy about this stuff, is that like you would say, well, okay, these are tiny little notes. I don't really need to change my tracks. C plus is good enough for me. C plus can still get me in the door. You got to realize that a 10 to 20% correction and like a change in your direction of your sync licensing career in the short run doesn't do anything. You can, okay, 10 to 20% this way, whatever. I'm still kind of where I am. You fast forward 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and you are miles away from where you were going if you just had whatever, my tracks are good enough, or I don't need to get any feedback. I know that I'll be all right. And I know this because that's where I started in this business. Is I was like, well, I didn't really have a lot of resources to get professional feedback. I probably had no resources, but I definitely was more prideful of like, whatever. I have good tracks. I got good riffs. Like, I'm fine. And I was constantly, getting a few placements, but really I knew that my tracks were never quite where they could be. And it took me a few years to finally humble myself to go to school essentially and figure out how to really up my game and start to play with my approach and do things differently. So you guys I beg you, please don't waste years of your life trying to reinvent the wheel or stabbing in the dark and sending your music out there and just hoping something works. We can give you that confidence and that clarity, like we're hopefully giving Jim here, that you're either on the right track and you need to just course correct, or maybe you're way off track. You've got some big issues that are going on in your music, which we do have some of those members. We're honest with them, and we want to help you get back on that right track so that you don't have to waste 5 years and go, man, where are all my placements? Where are all my contracts? How come nothing's working out? Well, you can start today getting on the better track through pro feedback. So please do consider joining us. We'd love to have you. The link is in the description box below of this video, so where you can learn more about it. As with all of my services, 30-day money back guarantee, and you can cancel anytime. So literally like nothing to risk at all. You can join, get some feedback, and if it's not amazing, helpful, resourceful information for you to get, cancel, get a refund. We don't want you to be a part of the product or the community if it's not the most powerful thing you've ever been a part of. That's really how we've designed it, is I want to make sure that this is only going to be useful and beneficial for you. So please do join. Philip, thank you so much for being a part of this, man, and for doing all the great work you do on the platform and for this review. I know that Jim will certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, man. This was fun. Good work,
Absolutely.
Jim.